Welcome in another edition here of Mean Streets, live on Game Plus Network, also on our FTN Network YouTube page, listening on iTunes and Spotify. We appreciate you. Smash the like button, rate, review, subscribe. Any questions, leave them there in the YouTube section. You can reach out at Chris Meaney on the Twitter machine. DMs are open. Slide on in. You can also reach out, Mean Streets, FTN at gmail.com. Something you'd like to see on the show, a player you'd like me to break down. Do you have any tough keeper league decisions, rookie only drafts? All these things are happening here in the sports world. Of course, this is a multi-sport show. We are going to touch on absolutely everything today. We're going to scan the diamond for some MLB picks and some props. Yesterday was pretty good. Not going to lie, we had a decent day. We had the Angels and the Texas Rangers over 9.5 runs. It was a highly entertaining game last night. Shohei Ohtani, not one, but two bombs. And we talked with Todd Whitestone about whether or not it was a decent sprinkle at 55-1 for the Angels to win the World Series, or if they were going to move on from Shohei Ohtani. And now this is a team that's rattled off a bunch of wins in a row, and they're right there knocking on the door for a playoff spot. So I'm not sure that they are going to trade Shohei. And we did talk yesterday about what a tough spot the Angels are indeed in with Shohei Ohtani, losing this guy for nothing, have to make the playoffs, for Trout and Ohtani, and just how aggressive this team has been this season in particular with some of their call-ups, a couple rookies from last year, the year before. We are seeing a very aggressive Halos team, and I think they will be aggressive at the deadline in trying to bolster either the bullpen or the starting rotation. We'll see what does happen there. But yesterday, again, like I said, Texas, another team that continues to pile up the runs. We did get a little lucky there, over 5.5 runs. They got it in the bottom of the 12th, that sixth run. We did talk about Josh Young, who did have the over 1.5 total bases, as well as he continues to smash lefties, leads the Rangers in all categories when it comes to homers and WRC plus and WOBA against Southpaw. So somebody to keep in the back of your mind when the Texas Rangers come with a team implied total of just over 5 up against a lefty. Consider Josh Young. Maybe in your DFS lineups. Of course, you own him in fantasy baseball, but in the betting market as well. But today we will scan the dime and look for a couple MLB picks and some props. We're going to give a little bit more love to the Cincinnati Reds because, like we said yesterday, Vegas continues to undersell them. And again, they have another, I think their total is like 4.5, their team total, but it's at a decent little price here today up against Jordan Lyles of the Kansas City Royals. So I think the Reds are just super sneaky here lately. So we'll touch on them and a couple other MLB props. Maybe we'll revisit those World Series odds in just a little bit. We're going to talk some NFL here today on the show. We will go over the top 12 rankings, my top 12 rankings overall, how I feel the first round of fantasy football drafts should go. And it's been some time since we've looked at the NFL win totals. We got all excited when they were released about, 5-6 weeks ago now, even probably longer than that, right, Quan? Like almost 2 months ago, these NFL win totals were released. What has changed? Who do we feel good about? Just kind of touch on that towards the end of the show. Of course, tonight is Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Finals between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Florida Panthers. We'll dive into Game 5. I got a ton of picks because I do believe this will be the last night in the NHL in quite some time. So we got some single props, some assist props, point props, things to attack. We got some same game parlay stuff over at FanDuel and over at Bet365. We're going to talk Conn Smythe. We are going to go over a lot of things here tonight in the NHL, and maybe, I didn't really plan this, but Quan did bring it up before we got going. Maybe I'll take a look at PrizePicks and Underdog Fantasy and see what kind of edges we can find over there as well. As we said yesterday on this show, the Denver Nuggets were going to end the NBA season with a victory, and they did that. We talked about the Heat covering, which they did, 94-89. We talked about Caleb Martin, which we had to sweat out, over 15.5 points, rebounds, plus assists. He finishes with 16 combined points, rebounds, and assists. No Tyler Hero. Thought he was going to get some play. He didn't touch the court at all. But I thought Miami, they were really bringing it. And they struggled in the fourth quarter to score points. And that's really it. This is a team that struggled offensively. Unbelievable run that nobody saw coming at all. This is a team that had, they were a playing team. And they made it to the NBA Finals. And they won a game, right? They didn't get swept. They won a game. They were really in it last night. Jimmy Butler did what he could towards the end with a couple trays. And it just ultimately, this team just couldn't keep up offensively to the Denver Nuggets. And Nikola Jokic may not have won the MVP in the regular season for the third consecutive year, but he got the trophy that mattered the most, right? Won the NBA championship and was named MVP last night, NBA Finals MVP, the first player in NBA history to lead all players in points, rebounds, and assists in a single postseason. This guy he's done nothing but set records here over the past, I don't know, all year. This guy, I feel like, has been setting records throughout the entire postseason. He's setting records. First guy to do a triple-double here, first triple-double there, 30-20 game with 5+ assists. Like, he's been unbelievable here. Jamal Murray, shout out to the Canadian as well from Kitchener, Ontario, who had 8 assists. The first time he didn't cash when it comes to assists, it was finally at 8.5 plus money, but he landed on 8 dimes. Bam had the 20 points, which we did think would happen over 19.5 with slightly juice. And how about Porter Jr. showing up, playing in the fourth quarter? Quan doesn't want to hear it, but he did have himself finally a big game, 16-13 for Porter. And congratulations to the Denver Nuggets, who nobody was really buying. I don't know if we have the NBA championship odds here anymore. Why would we have them in the back end of this show? But I remember Randall came on and we talked about them at 12-1 to win the NBA championship, and nobody was talking about them. I know I was drinking the Suns Kool-Aid. I was in on Phoenix. Chris Paul goes down again, and the Suns, collapsed against Phoenix or against Denver, excuse me. But everybody was just talking about the Celtics, Embiid and the 76ers. Of course, the Bucks. That was surprising, right? The Heat getting by the Bucks. And even in the West, it was Warriors. Can't count out the Warriors. The Phoenix Suns are rolling. The Lakers had a really nice showing too, and got swept by Denver. Denver was the best team in the NBA, I think, from like January on. Certainly the best team in the Western Conference from January on. So kudos to them. Kudos to the Joker. And what a deadly 1-2 punch that was all year, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Good stuff there from the Nuggets. And I think it's going to be all over tonight in the NHL too. It's kind of like, I don't want it to be. I wanted the Heat to win last night. I want the Panthers to pull out a W tonight. I want to see more hockey. I want to see the finals extended to 6 or 7 games. And I'm certainly here for that. But I think Florida's a little shorthanded here today. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Job posting. Want to bring this up with you guys at least one more time, a couple more times. We haven't made the hire yet. We've had a lot of people apply over at FTN Data. We are hiring advanced football charters. Get paid to watch football, literally. Hang out, watch the games, chart some data, watch post game. You're watching a lot of film. If watching football is not your thing, then this job isn't for you. If watching football is your thing, if you like numbers, you like statistics, this job certainly is for you. Mike Tallis at ftnnetwork.com. Submit your resume to Mike Tallis. Again, that's Mike, M-I-K-E, Tallis, T-A-L-A-S, at ftnnetwork.com. Tell him Chris Meaney sent you. We're looking for help. And what better way to get paid to watch football? Kind of get your foot in the door in the industry. And who knows where this job could lead you. Could be hanging out on Main Streets on Game Plus Network. It's all a possibility. Bruce East 91 in the house. No hockey, no basketball. Say it ain't so. We got some baseball talk throughout the summer. We're never going to really shy away from the NHL or the NBA. We have great NBA draft profiles over at FTN Network. We did a mock draft, a couple weeks ago. You can go back and check that out. And Zach has gotten together with Randall. We got Zach, a.k.a. Queisenberg DFS, Graham, and then Mike, a.k.a. Randall. They've been doing some NBA player profiles, talking about like Scoot Henderson versus Brandon Miller, the Thompson brothers, and of course, Wemby as well up at the top of the board. What can you say about him? But the NBA draft, there's a solid, there's probably like, I think 15 really solid prospects. And we're just a little under 2 weeks away from the NBA draft, the NHL draft at the end of the season. We're going to get into free agency stuff. Like I said this morning on Dagobert Selly with Eric Young, it's not going to officially go away. Even if that cup is raised, we're going to have some hockey talk. We'll take a look at free agents. We'll take a look at the draft. We'll take a look at, fantasy hockey, dynasty rankings, and, guys to buy low and sell high in your dynasty formats and all that good stuff. We'll take a quick break and we will return after the break, and we'll start to dive into the hockey. We got a lot of picks. Hopefully we can end the NHL season with some winners. Wow, I'm really counting out Florida, right? Maybe I'm wrong to do that, but I'll share my reasons after the break. Keep her locked.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level.
Come back in, trying to find the latest here on Matthew Tkachuk, and there's just really no official word. I do believe he is in Vegas. There were some reports I saw this morning that he didn't make the trip. He's clearly not 100%, and it's not a concussion. You know, he took the big hit from Keegan Colasar in Game 3, and he missed, 17 minutes of the first period. Wasn't on the bench to start the second period. And, you know, he came in and got the game tying goal, and Florida went on to win that game in overtime thanks to Carter Verhaeghe, but didn't really play a whole lot in Game 4. Of course, his minutes are down considerably in the Stanley Cup Finals compared to other rounds. You know, part of that is certainly missing time with the injury. I think we'll hear after, you know, the Stanley Cup Finals are over that maybe he has like a torn labrum or a separated shoulder. He's clearly got, you know, something going on with his shoulder, shying away from some of the contact, missing a lot of time in Game 4 in the third period, kind of saving himself towards the end of that game to try to, you know, help complete the comeback. And also part of the ice time decline is, you know, when you get 10 minutes of penalties every single game, you're spending a ton of time in the penalty box. I don't know actually off the top of my head how many penalty minutes he has. It's got to be 40 plus. I mean, he's got 3 10-minute misconducts here in the Stanley Cup Finals, and a lot of them have come towards the end. But that's it. You know, Vegas is just, you know, they really are so complete. They get in the way of every single shot. You know, all their defenders, all 6 of their blue liners are all over 6 foot, and they just block everything. Plus, you got Aiden Hill, who's over 6'4" roughly, and he's a guy that's just kind of getting in all avenues as well. I mean, if he's seeing it, he's most likely stopping it. You know, the goals that he's let in here in the Stanley Cup Finals, some of them have been screens and wristers from the point that he has not been able to see, or a couple quick rebounds and things like that. But I just think Florida's coming in crazy shorthanded. You know, Matthew Tkachuk does so much for them. I know Brennan was something. Alexander Barkov is certainly. A lot of players are dealing with something, but it's very noticeable when it comes to Florida, especially obviously with their leader. And I call Matthew Tkachuk their leader, even though Barkov has that C and did lead by example. I thought in the last game was his best game in the Stanley Cup Finals with the goal and an assist, but he's not 100%. Montour is not 100%. Anthony Duclair is questionable to suit up in this game, dealing with a neck injury. So they're coming in shorthanded. And Vegas is this is a team that's just clicking right now. I mean, they lost the first game of the Stanley Cup Finals to Winnipeg. They won 4 straight after that. You know, they handled the Edmonton Oilers, who we all loved on this show, and everybody. I mean, Edmonton was actually the hottest team in the NHL from January 1st on. It wasn't the Boston Bruins. And then they handled another team, certainly that I liked a lot, in the Dallas Stars, and beat them in 6 games and had the 3-0 lead. And, Dallas was able to get a couple, but this team is just 4 lines deep. I think that's where the mismatch is in the bottom 6. When you have a guy like Riley Smith and William Karlsson playing in the bottom 6, and then you have that 4th line and Nicholas Roy, who's been really good here in the finals and in the playoffs, and Kolasar and other grinders that they have. I mean, they have a grinder on every line. Like, Ivan Barbashev who's an unrestricted free agent. We'll see what kind of money he gets in the offseason. He just fits perfectly on the line with Jonathan Marchessault and Jack Eichel, who leads the series in assists, and Marchessault leads the series in goals and points. And then on the second line, with Stone and Chandler Stevenson, I'm going to give a little bit of love to Stevenson in a little bit, but he's been great. Those two were great before the injury to Mark Stone happened. Then Stevenson was quiet without Mark Stone, and then Stone comes back, gets activated off long-term IR for game 1. And in game 1, Bruce Cassidy kind of loaded up the lines, like kind of did and I think it was like an Eichel, Stevenson, and Stone, which we've seen in the regular season. But then after game 1 and that butt whooping, you went back to just kind of like 2 studs with a grinder. Brett Howden is that grinder with Mark Stone and Stevenson, and they just got all kinds of just role players with a bunch of skilled players, and it just fits in perfectly with what they're doing. Brzezis 91, that Brady Tkachuk wedding sure is going to be awkward. We brought this up on Dangle Bet Sally this morning. Brady Tkachuk is getting married this summer. Matthew Tkachuk is going to be his best man, and Mark Stone is in the wedding party as well. As a former Sen and now playing against Matthew Tkachuk, it could be pretty awkward for Matthew. And Stone will be fine. Stone will rub it in a little bit. He'll come with I guess he won't have the Stanley Cup ring, but he'll be coming in hot fire for sure. Vegas closes out tonight at home. I do believe that will be the case. Cats haven't been able to match Vegas's physicality and pressure in their zone. Yeah, there's a couple different things that I see. Florida does play with a massive edge. They're very physical, and I think that Vegas has matched that physicality. That's what I see as you see the odds here for game 5 tonight. And these odds have changed considerably. A lot of money coming in on Vegas. They're minus 175, the shortest odds I'm seeing. And I believe that's over at DraftKings. I see a lot of minus 180, minus 185 out there as well. There is some totals at 5.5. 6 would be plus money if you have the lean to the over. I do. I actually have the lean to the over. I think this could be like a 4-3 hockey game, or, Vegas gets up by a couple, Florida pretty desperate, pulling their goalie early. We could see a couple empty net goals. We've seen, Vegas have some really strong third periods at home against Florida here. But yeah, I mean, if I look at round 1, Florida, they definitely brought it in terms of their physical play with Boston, and Boston, is a physical team as well. But I thought Florida matched the physicalness of that series. And then I thought Florida just kind of bullied Toronto with some of their star players. They were hard on them. They were really aggressive. Bennett getting in on the forecheck and laying dudes out. We've seen that so many times, Bennett and Tkachuk. And then, the scrums, just physical play. And then same sort of deal. I thought that they were much more physical than Carolina. And I thought that they tried to push Vegas around, and Vegas just wasn't having any of it. Like, this is a team, like Jordan Allen, Daily Handle says, Vegas can match that physical play and all this stuff, between the whistles and after the whistles, mostly after the whistle. Vegas is just they're not buying into that. Like, they can't be baited. They're sitting there laughing at, the face wash or the stick in the groin or the slashes. They're just sitting there and taking all of that like they did to Dallas. I thought Dallas in round 3 got super frustrated, with Jamie Benn and Max Domi. They're in their face, and Vegas is just not really having any of that. So there's a lot of reasons why I think Vegas has been the better team so far in this series. And now, with Florida shorthanded, they're in a tough spot. So you saw the odds there. These are the Conn Smythe odds as of right now, which we do like on this show because we gave Jonathan Marchessault at 31-1 over at FanDuel after the second round. We have that in the bet tracker. So we're feeling pretty good about him being a minus 400 favorite, according to DraftKings, heading into tonight. And Aiden Hill was almost like a little bit of a hedge play for us at 12-1, because if you go up and down, I mean, you really can make a case for Marchessault and Jack Eichel, and Mark Stone has been great. Aiden Hill, even Chandler Stevenson, William Karlsson has had some really big moments here in the playoffs. Marchessault has overtaken this just, I think, since round 2. Round 2, he was the best player in round 2. most points, most goals. Round 3, he had the most goals and the most points in the series against Dallas. And as of right now, this is a guy that's leading the way in terms of points. So points isn't everything. Jack Eichel, you could certainly make a case for him. He's tied with Roope Hintz and Matthew Tkachuk, that is. Marchessault with 24 points each. Eichel's right behind with 23. Only has the 6 goals, but 17 total assists, 11 primary assists. Marchessault leads the playoffs in goals with 13. Well, I guess he's tied with Leon Draisaitl. But he's not scoring without the playmaking ability from Jack Eichel, who's played a 200-foot game here. These were the odds, heading into the Stanley Cup Finals. So we got Marchessault there at plus 750. I don't want to get ahead of the horse here. You know what I mean? These things, we got to wait to see them play out. But a couple things that we did have here, like Marchessault most goals at plus 750, Marchessault most points at 13-1. He is leading this, as I mentioned, this series in points. He's got 7, but it's going to be super tight because Stone is right behind him with 6. He does have a 2-goal cushion on a lot of guys. He's got 4 goals, and most players got 2. And on the Florida side, there's not one guy that has more than 3 points. Montour and Tkachuk has 3 points each. Stevenson's got the 5, and the Eichel has the 5. But mostly everything that Eichel touches, Marchessault touches as well. And then on the other side, just a couple long shots there. Shea Theodore, who's looking pretty decent, actually, Shea Theodore for points. He does have 3. The 3 came in the first 2 games, so we won't get that one. But Eichel more points than Matthew Tkachuk. We got a 2-point cushion there. Eichel doesn't have any goals, and Matthew Tkachuk does have 2, so we won't get that one. Barkov has the 1 goal, and Mark Stone has 2 goals, so we're looking like we're on the wrong side of that one. And then the Bennett and the Carlson points. Carlson has 2 points here, and Sam Bennett has 2 points. So that one could be a wash, or maybe we get the Sam Bennett one there. So won't want to get ahead of ourselves too much here, but it's looking pretty decent for us as well. Let's give some props. We got a bunch here, as I mentioned. We'll break in a second. I got some same game parlays, some fun stuff that maybe we can try to end with a bang here. But first, before we do that, I want to bring up what we've been doing for every game, courtesy of Natural Stat Trick. These are the 5-5 shot attempts, scoring chances. So you see shots, attempts, shots, and scoring chances in that order. Look at Barkov here. 10 attempts. He had the 6 shots. Only 2 were scoring chances. He did score a goal. Anton Liddell is a guy that we need to have on our radar. We talked about him before Game 4. What I was looking for in Game 4 was Carter Verhaeghe to get some PP1, power play 1 time, which he did, and for him to move off the line with Bennett and Tkachuk, which happened. It kind of happened like halfway through Game 3, and it carried over into Game 4. And then, I just listening to the broadcast and talking about how, the TNT broadcast and Gretzky and Lundqvist, and they're not wrong, and Biz and all those guys, Anson Carter. Ojek on the play-by-play has been fantastic. Keith Jones, those guys are great on the TNT broadcast. Talking about how, Barkov had to get going. It's hard for Barkov to get going when he's playing with Nick Cousins and Anthony Duclair. I don't want to be taking shots and Anthony Duclair and Nick Cousins, but let's be real, especially about Nick Cousins. This guy's a bottom 6 role player. In order for Barkov to get going, you got to play him with some talented players. And halfway through Game 4, maybe because they were down 3-0, and I'm interested to see how these lines are going to shape up here tonight. But with desperation mode, I would imagine Lindell is up on that top line. Lindell is on my radar tonight. 1.5 shots, certainly juice, but I think he's a guy that, we just saw on that board, right? The attempts that he had, and he had a good Game 3 as well. Actually had a good Game 2. Towards the end of Game 2, he was bumped up on that top line with Barkov, but I thought Lindell was one of the best players on the ice for Florida in Game 4. 8 attempts, 3 shots, 4 scoring chances. And they put Sam Reinhart on that top line as well. So they could really go all in tonight, and I expect them kind of to do that. With Reinhart, it would make that bottom 6 even worse, right? And that's kind of been the advantage that Vegas has had with the bottom 6, outplaying the bottom 6, especially the 4th line for the Golden Knights, outplaying Florida's 4th line. But, Barkov with Lindell and maybe Sam Reinhart, Verhaeghe with Bennett, and we'll see what kind of status Matthew Tkachuk is in. I would imagine he suits up. It's going to be really hard to keep him away from the team tonight. He's not going to be full go. He may only play, 12 minutes. He may only play in the power play. He may only play in certain situations, but I do believe he is going to suit up tonight. But man, he is what a warrior. He's clearly not 100%. You can tell, shying away from some of the physical play and things like that. Back to that for a second. On the other side, Pietrangelo, Brett Howden, Jonathan Marchessault. Pietrangelo is super interesting to me as we just transition to some of the single props that I like here for tonight. Oh, I left Pietrangelo off the board. I actually do like Pietrangelo at plus 125 for 3 shots tonight, just because of all of the attempts that he is getting. He leads Vegas in ice time in this series. Brendan Montour leads all skaters with 101 minutes of total ice time. The next closest guy is Gustav Forsling at 94, but the Golden Knights leader is Alex Pietrangelo at 90 minutes. And in terms of shot attempts, he is number 1 on the Vegas Golden Knights with 22 shot attempts. Now, he only has 9 shots, but he is having, a lot of success kind of putting pucks towards the goal. So he is like an interesting flyer to take a shot on. But Chandler Stevenson here at over 1.5 shots at minus 130. That's at DraftKings. It's our free bet of the day. We had it in game 4, it was minus 115. Chandler Stevenson has at least 3 shots in 3 straight games, 3, 4, and 4. He looks really good. I mean, he's got that gold bucket on. I actually don't mind the gold bucket. It's a little weird. The silver ones the Kings wear are a little weird. It's just like weird seeing them on the bench and you can see like the Jumbotron on the roof, like reflection on the helmets, but I don't mind the gold, baby. Chandler Stevenson over 1.5 shots. Just love the way that he's playing with a ton of confidence. He's coming off a game with 2 goals, playing with a ton of speed, and he really does get up down the ice pretty easily. He's on that first power play unit. I mentioned Barkov and the 10 attempts that he had, a game high in game 4. The captain of the squad here, fewer minutes. We're uncertain with the Kachuk news and Duclair news. Barkov's going to be leaned on, double shifts. And I thought he really did have a great game, taking matters into his own hands. He's a pass first guy, but putting a lot of pucks towards the goal. Taking over 2.5 shots at minus 136. We're always going to take this with Sam Bennett. He did clear the 3.5 in game 1 and game 2 in Vegas. He is, in terms of his splits, he does have more of a track record of clearing his shot prop at home. But again, desperation here and some of the injuries up front to Florida. So I'm taking the over 3.5 shots at plus 115. And then Jack Eichel for the assist. Mentioned he's got, the 5 assists here in the series, which leads all skaters, and the 11 primary assists that he has here in the postseason as well. So minus 108 for an assist. And I think if you're looking for another one, I'd go with Pietrangelo, the over 2.5 shots, just because of all the attempts that he's getting. I know he's not on that first power play unit, but he's still putting a lot of pucks towards the goal. And I do believe Mark Stone is in play for an Apple as well. We're going to get nuts here after the break. After the break, we got some same game parlay stuff over at FanDuel. We've had, maybe you got to have some luck on your side. You have to. I mean, you have to have some luck on your side to win NHL games. You got to have some luck on your side when it comes to some of these props. But we hit 125-1 same game parlay throughout these playoffs in round 1 with Florida and Boston. We hit a 25-1. We had I think a 17-1 in the Stanley Cup Finals. So we're going to get a little bit nuts here in the next block, and I'll take care of the PrizePicks and the Underdog users as well. See if we can find some edges. A little bit more hockey talk here to come on Mean Streets, because potentially this is the last game. So we want to go out with a bang. Keep her locked. We'll be back in a couple.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at SoRare.com/MLB. Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
Let's get nuts. Let's get nuts, people. Let's start here. Quan, you tell me where you want to start. We got some same game parlays here. Okay, so this is this one isn't too nuts. I don't think it's that crazy, even though it's what is this? A 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 leg parlay. I think I gave an 8 leg parlay on Dangle Batselli this morning, and it didn't seem that ludicrous. This one really isn't that bad either. What do we got here? All these guys for just 2 shots. Now, the caveat is that they have to get this done in 60 minutes. So if the game goes to overtime, that's it. You just stop the count right there. Carter Verhaeghe, Brendan Montour, Alexander Barkov, Anton Lundell, Jonathan Marchessault, Sam Bennett, and Chandler Stevenson for 2+ shots. I mean, I like all of these guys. I mean, there's obviously a lot of juice here with Verhaeghe, Montour, and Marchessault to have 2+ shots, even Bennett. Lundell and Stevenson, maybe the guys that you're a little bit uneasy about, but in the last block, we talked about Chandler Stevenson, how he's got, 3, 4, and 4, his shots over the last couple of games. Of course, if you get rid of Stevenson and Lundell, this is going to turn out to be, like +280 or 3-1 roughly. So it makes it at 6-1, +601 for all these guys to have 2+ shots. Again, that's for Verhaeghe, Montour, Barkov, Lundell, Marchessault, Bennett, and Stevenson. I got a couple other ones in the bet tracker. For example, I have this one here that pays 17-1. By the way, I put a full unit on that, +601. This one here, we don't have a board for. I'm just going to read it off, Quan. It's 17-1, 0.25 units. It's Bennett, Montour, and Barkov to have 3+ shots. And then Verhaeghe 2, Theodore 2, Pietrangelo 2, Marchessault 2, and Anton Lundell 2. Lundell's the guy that you may be uneasy about, but I wouldn't. Like, again, he's going to get a lot of ice time in this game. I would imagine he's playing next to Barkov up on that top line, so there's a significant boost in just overall his usage rate. 3 shots in the last game, 3 in game 2, 4 in game 1. He's cleared, the 2 shots, and 3 of the 4, he was stuck on 1 in game 3. But again, this is a guy that's going to get a boost here in ice time. He's going to play. I think he's going to live in the 18-minute mark, which he did in game 3, which he did in game 2. And again, with some of these Florida guys kind of, dealing with injuries, we could see him just with Barkov. And I think Barkov's going to get a ton of ice time tonight, double shifts. So that's the same game parlay stuff. That's the 6-1. And then I rattled off the 17-1. The only difference is we're adding Pietrangelo, we're adding Theodore, 2, volume shooters from the point. Talked about Pietrangelo leading the Golden Knights in shot attempts with 22. And Shea Theodore is right there as well, just under 20s on that first power play unit. So if Florida continues to be undisciplined, which they have been in the series, get a couple Golden Knights power plays. That's where we could get maybe those numbers on the Vegas side of things. And then what else do we have? We have from Bet365, the users in the Toronto area, Ontario area. This has been working out for us just beautifully. We've gotten in 3 of the 4 games. The Eichel and Marchessault same game parlay to pick up a point. This is the shortest odds I've seen from the duo. +105. It's been around +115, +120. But Eichel and Marchessault to pick up a point at +105. Stone and Stevenson, these guys also play together on. This is what I like about this stuff. So Eichel and Marchessault, they play together at 5-5 and on the first power play. Stone and Stevenson play together at 5-5 and on the first power play. It kind of correlates, right? One of these guys pick up a point. Usually they kind of piggyback off of each other. Eichel's been the setup man. Marchessault's finishing. Stone and Stevenson are both scoring goals, and they're both, touching the puck along the goal line in the power play. So Stone and Stevenson for a point at +125. And then this one's a little bit of a longer shot. Barkov and Anton Lundell. I was going to put Bennett and Verhaeghe on this list as well, but I'm just really feeling Barkov here tonight. So Barkov and Anton Lundell both to hit the score sheet at +200. I think if you wanted another one, you could go that route of Bennett and Verhaeghe for a point, which would pay roughly +200 as well. Anton Lundell and Riley Smith, a same game parlay for both of these guys over 1.5 shots. That is +130 again over at Bet365. I have PrizePicks in front of my face. It is Taco Tuesday, and I'm seeing Aiden Hill at 24.5. Colin's like, no. It's a trap. It's a trap. Don't do the Taco Tuesdays. In fact, the 24.5, I don't love it. I'm not really into it. His save prop is 28.5. I think there's a better case for Bobrovsky over 28.5. You could do something over at let's see. I'm going to do this on the fly for you guys. This is like for those that can't do the same game parlay stuff, fade the taco. PrizePicks does offer this same as Underdog Fantasy. So you can do Bobrovsky over 28.5 saves. Let's add Pietrangelo over 2 shots, Marchessault over 2 shots. We got Mark Stone over 2.5, Shea Theodore over 2. Boom. There's your guys. Chandler Stevenson is not on this board. I wonder why. We were all over the 1.5 for game 4 for Chandler Stevenson PrizePicks. It's my favorite prop of the day over 1.5. Like him and Barkov are my favorite too. So not offering it. But you can do Bobrovsky over 28.5 saves, Pietrangelo over 2 shots, Marchessault over 3 shots, Mark Stone over 2.5, and Shea Theodore over 2.5. And then that's a flex play. Actually, you gotta get one more. Let's do one. You gotta get the 6 for the where's Chandler Stevenson? Do Riley Smith over Eichel. Eichel's kind of passing off more than shooting. So then you get Riley Smith over there. And you could do any kind of payout that you want, but it's a 6 entry flex play. Now it's 24-1. If you get all 6 of those right, 24-1. Even if you say just go 5 for 6, you're going to earn yourself a little bit of a profit. If we're just doing individual plays and you don't want to go the 6-pick entry in the same game parlay, although it really does correlate. If Bobrovsky's getting 29 saves tonight, these other guys are going to get those shot attempts as well and the shots. But if you just want, say, I don't know, a couple, you want a 2-leg entry here tonight, you want to keep it simple, and I like that. We got the free pick tracker over at FTNDaily.com. I've been loading some picks in. I'm going to load some picks in tonight. But I think the 2 for me would be, again, Stevenson is not there. So it does kind of throw me off a little bit. I'd go Sam Bennett over 3 shots. And then if I'm doing a golden night, I'll probably lean Mark Stone over 2.5 or Pietrangelo over 2. You get the 2 as a push, but I think he could get the 3 shots there. But the same game parlay stuff would be Florida goalie, Bobrovsky saves, and then take those Florida shooters. Over at UnderdogFantasy.com, I'm not seeing Chandler Stevenson there either, but I do see, Barkov's at 3. We can get the 2.5 at other sports books. Lindell at 2. And then I would go Lindell at 2, Bennett at 3. And I'll lean here Mark Stone or Pietrangelo at 2. I really do like those 2s that they're hanging. Shea Theodore's at 2, Pietrangelo's at 2. I think that both of those defensemen can get to 3. And I do like Mark Stone, even though he didn't come through with us in the last game. I do like Mark Stone at 2.5. He's one of the few forwards that are at 2.5 that we can get behind. Most other players are at 3, so you need 4, right? So I think, with the 2, with the Lindell at 2, Pietrangelo at 2, Mark Stone 2.5, I think that's the way that I would go over at Underdog. I think we hit up on everything, right? Come on, got to convince you to take an under. It's just not going to happen. I think if I'm leaning for an under, it would be, Jack Eichel under 3.5 shots. It would be, I think that's it. Like, I can't do it. I'm not a huge believer in some of these unders. It's just easier to predict some of the overs. William Karlsson under 2, right? He gets 2, it could be a push, things like that. I think we went pretty long on the hockey talk. I think we gotta stop for the NHL talk for now. You guys know I love it so much. Yeah, come on, I can't do it, man. I just can't do it. There's no unders. It's really just tough to predict. It's not fun rooting for it. We want winners. We want to try to produce some winners on this show, but I'm not just going to give an under for the sake of giving an under. Haven't really done it all year, so I'm not going to finish the season with an under. But if there is one under you want, it's probably Jack Eichel, because I don't know if he's going to get 4 shots. He's more of a pass first player, which we've seen here throughout the playoffs, and in particular in this series on the power play. He's dishing it off to Marchessault. He's dishing it off to the point to Shea Theodore, down low to Mark Stone. Vegas wins. I consider coming in with a puck line, but I do think that they're going to win by a couple goals. I really do think that they're going to win by a couple goals. We'll see if we're celebrating Marchessault props at the end of it. We got MLB picks next. We're going to dive into some MLB stuff. We also have some NFL win total stuff. We still got a lot more to get to. Hang tight.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB. Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
See this just pop through on social media from Joe Buscala. I probably butchered that. He's a Bills reporter at The Athletic. He says, Bills head coach Sean McDermott says wide receiver Stephon Diggs is not in attendance for mandatory minicamp. McDermott said, quote, he's very concerned. I don't know what that means. I don't know if he's okay. I don't know if he's just, Diggs, you go back the past couple of years, man, he kind of throws fits out on the field. He was yelling at Josh Allen last year. He's all sooky on the bench. He's trending on Twitter. I don't know, Quan, if there's any other news that you can find why he's not. Schefter's tweeting here now of 29 minutes ago, says Stephon Diggs' agent said his client is in Buffalo, has been in Buffalo since yesterday morning, took his physical, met with the head coach and GM the past 2 days, and the Pro Bowl wide receiver, quote, will be there for the entirety of minicamp. So it's nothing. Doesn't seem like it's really anything at all. He's just not there at the moment. NBA Rig, what up? Welcome in. All right, so we got some MLB props here. Again, yesterday went pretty well. I'm pretty happy with how the day went. We had the Texas over team, 5.5 runs. We had Josh Young over 1.5 total bases. We had the over in the game at 9.5. So we did have some things that went our way. Hopefully we can continue here. I'm going to lead with Corbin Burns. His strikeout prop is 6.5 at -152 over at FanDuel, but I'm going to take the over 7.5 strikeouts at +120 over at DraftKings. I'm just going to take this one. 6.5, sure. I'd rather the 7, but that's a lot of juice to kind of drink up here. Corbin Burns has been like a tale of two different Corbin Burns. Where is the guy that struck out 10 batters per 9 last year, 13 batters per 9 2 years ago? Right now, his K per 9 is under 9. Like, that's average, below average. You want your guy to have a 9 K per 9, a strikeout per inning pitcher. And Corbin Burns, for the first 7 starts, he had 5 strikeouts or fewer in 6 of those first 7 outings. Over his last few outings, he looks like the old Corbin Burns. Now, he's still walking a few guys, but his last outing, 9 strikeouts. Before that, 7, 8, 5, 7, and 7. So he's had at least 7 strikeouts in 5 of his past 6 starts. He's had over 7 strikeouts in 2 of his last 3 outings. And the one outing that he had where he only struck out 5 was against the Astros. They don't really strike out. They make a lot of contact. They struck out a little bit more this year than in years past. But, Jose Abreu's really struggled. I thought he'd be much better for the Astros. He's really still trying to find his game. I know Altuve missed some time at the start of the season, so some of those strikeout numbers were maybe a little bit more inflated than we're used to seeing when it comes to the Astros. But this is a start against the Twins here tonight that have the highest strikeout rate in all of baseball at 27%. So give me Corbin Burns. I tried to do a same game parlay or like a different parlay with like Max Scherzer, who's at 6.5, really juiced against the Yankees. I do think he'll get to 7 strikeouts. I was going to do a DraftKings parlay, but DK moved from 6.5 to 7.5 from this morning till now. So I still like the 7.5. I'm betting it myself. I think he can rack up 8 strikeouts here. What else do we have? I got like the Phillies today. Braves, that's cool. Braves and Phillies, both of those, you can rotate through those. Quan will walk it out. The Braves got a matchup here against Reese Olson. Detroit Tigers don't really love their bullpen. And this Braves team, anytime I can get 4.5 runs around like minus 129, that's from Unibet. I think DraftKings is hanging around minus 140, which I still would take as a single. I just really like this Braves lineup. And I do like the spot that they're in. And then what else did you have? There's the Phillies on the money line. It's a battle of Zacks between the Phillies and the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are a sneaky good offense, but Zach Wheeler, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt up against Zach Davies. And Davies is more of like, doesn't strike out a lot of dudes. He's kind of a contact pitcher. He's got some fly ball to his game as well. So the Phillies could maybe get to him in Zona. That's at minus 130. And I think that's it, right? The Astros are the other team. We just kind of touched on them a little bit. The over 4.5. That maybe getting out of hand here. That was from this morning when I put in the pat tracker at minus 137. But they got a matchup against Patrick Corbin. They have one of the highest team implied totals on the slate today in Major League Baseball at 5.4. According to Fantasy Labs. And Patrick Corbin he's a contact pitcher. He doesn't strike anybody out. The Nationals just leave him in. There's been multiple times over the past couple of years where he's given up 8, 9, 10, 11 hits. You just leave him in to get rocked. And this is a team in the Astros that just make a ton of contact. I like them on the run line, but I just think that this is a bit of a safer bet. Hunter Brown on the bump for the Astros has been absolutely fantastic here over the last little bit. In the conversation, I think, for AL Rookie of the Year, 10-1. I do believe like Yoshida and Young are ahead of him for sure, but he's been really good, striking out a lot of batters over the last little bit. So the other one that I didn't give you guys that I like is the Cincinnati Reds, and I do have it in the bet tracker for 4.5 runs at minus 120. Up against Jordan Lyles of the Kansas City Royals, who's a fly ball pitcher, gives up some bombs. I think like last year is probably his outlier campaign with the O's. I know Kansas City's not a great hitter's ballpark, but the way that this Reds team is going, like Ellie De La Cruz is certainly in line to potentially go deep today. I would also take a look at maybe Matt McClain to go deep as well against Jordan Lyles. Gives up a lot of fly balls, a lot of home runs over the course of his career as well. So Burns over 7.5 strikeouts. We got the Phillies on the money line. We got the Braves and the Astros, two of the best offenses in baseball to score 5 runs, and then maybe a sneaky little play. The Reds at over 4.5 runs as well against Jordan Lyles. Let's look at the top 12 overall. I want to do a couple things. We got 2 more blocks here. We'll look at NFL win totals and top 12 overall rankings. My top 12, how I think the first round of fantasy football draft should go. That's next here on Main Streets. Paul Maurice just spoke to the media. No update on Matthew Tkachuk. It's going to be hush hush. I think he's going to suit up just because of he's such a leader, and if he can get out there on the ice for a couple power plays or things like that. But the quote here says if he plays, quote, there would be no limit at the start of the game. So we'll see what happens with Matthew Tkachuk. Again, I think he suits up. He's on the bench for at least just being there for the presence of the team. He's a good leader too off the ice. So we'll see what does happen. Barkov says no matter what, everyone has to step up a little bit, play a little bit better than we've been. Not breaking any news there, Alexander. Okay, top 12 overall fantasy football rankings. These are my top 12 overall, and this is kind of how I feel like your fantasy draft should go. But Justin Jefferson up at the top, no surprise. Last year finishing 17.9 fantasy points per game, 1,800 yards for Justin Jefferson, and 3 years in the NFL, he's got 4,800 yards. He only has 25 touchdowns, 8 last year, 10 as a sophomore, 7 as a rookie, but he came onto the scene, 1,400 yards as a rookie. That kind of seems like his floor, right? No Thielen. Of course, they do have some younger players, Jordan Addison there, Hawkinson to eat up some targets, but Justin Jefferson should lead the NFL in targets, and I would be shocked if he didn't. He had 184 last year, which led absolutely everybody. Jamar Chase is, I believe he's kind of in that tier. If you want to have Justin Jefferson in his own tier, I wouldn't fight you on that, but Jamar Chase, a big leap forward. I know his rookie year, 1,400 yards and 13 touchdowns and 128 targets. He only played 12 games last year, and he had more targets than he did as a rookie. He had 134, had over 1,000 yards, had 9 touchdowns. I mean, the guy's an absolute beast, and he's linked to, a really good quarterback in Joe Burrow, and these guys go all the way back to LSU days. Cooper Kupp, I think he's in this tier as well. Personally, for me, I would go like 1A, Justin Jefferson, and then 1B would be Chase, Cooper Kupp, and Tyreek Hill as my 4th overall player and 4th wide receiver. Cooper Kupp was limited to 9 games last year, but 18.2 fantasy points per game, which was the most at the wide receiver position. He's not going to have the same season he did 2 years ago where he was setting records, but as long as he's healthy and Matthew Stafford is healthy, and they did bolster the offensive line, and they didn't do a whole lot through the NFL draft to bring in talent to compete with Cooper Kupp, and they just moved on from Allen Robinson. I guess he didn't do a whole lot anyways, but Cooper Kupp, when he's healthy, he's the man there. And this is a team that's going to have to chuck. They did shed a couple, players off their salary cap and a couple defensive players that are gone from that team as well. Tyreek Hill proved to me that he is quarterback proof. 170 targets last year, 1,700 yards, 7 touchdowns, 16.9 fantasy points, which was more than Jamar Chase, which was more than Devontae Adams. It was actually 3rd overall. And again, he proved that he is quarterback proof. If you're worried about Tua, Mike White is a capable backup. And, last year we saw Skylar Thompson in there, Teddy Bridgewater, and Tyreek Hill was still eating, and he's very explosive after the catch. Not breaking news, but the guy did not miss Patrick Mahomes one bit. Not from a fantasy standpoint. Not at all. I'm sure he would have liked to, win another Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes, but they did almost upset the Buffalo Bills. Then I get into the running backs. Christian McCaffrey is my first running back off the board. If I had 5th pick, that's where I would take him. I would take those other wide receivers just ahead of him. CMC, 13 touchdowns in 14 games at San Francisco. He's a walking 100 total yard player who's going to get a lot of work inside the red zone as well. Austin Eckler, 107 grabs last season, 17 touchdowns. He's got 38 touchdowns in the last 2 years. That is the most in fantasy football. Travis Kelce, I kind of view him as a wide receiver 1 because the Kansas City Chiefs don't have a wide receiver 1. Travis Kelce is their guy, 1,000 yards. I kind of have my projections are right on point with him and Diggs and A.J. Brown and CeeDee Lamb. That's a tier in its own for me. That is tier 2 for wide receivers, Stephon Diggs, A.J. Brown, and CeeDee Lamb. Kind of splitting hairs with some of these guys. As of now, Diggs is the alpha wide receiver. I'm worried about some double coverage stuff that happened last year in the second half of games. I really would have liked to see them get another wide receiver opposite of Diggs. A.J. Brown didn't miss a beat from going to Philly from Tennessee. 146 targets, 88 grabs, 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns, 12.4 fantasy points per game, all career highs for A.J. Brown. I think we'll see more volume for CeeDee Lamb. He's probably headed for more catches and more targets as the true number 1. Cooks, no Schultz. He is probably the number 1 guy where Devontae Smith is going to eat as well. But it's all about preference for you. I think there's a higher ceiling there with A.J. Brown. And then we'll wrap up here with Devontae Adams and Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley last year put to bed all the the nonsense of him being injury prone. He had a full season last year and he was extremely good. 16 games, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, 57 grabs, no receiving touchdowns. And I'm not drinking the Bijan Robinson top 12. We'll have to do it another day. We're going to break and we'll take a quick look at NFL win totals. We'll do that kind of rapid fire here next on Mean Streets. There's the NFL win totals. Not a lot of time really to touch on this. NBA Rig, those were my top 12 overall rankings, and I do believe the Giants offense will flow better now that they have Darren Waller and some other wide receivers. So I think we could see this offense just be better, and I think overall that will help a guy like Saquon Barkley. And just Bijan, we're drafting him at his absolute peak. That's it. We're just drafting him at his absolute peak. What's best case scenario? He's RB1 overall? I just don't think so. So I just feel like there's a lot of risk in drafting his absolute ceiling. And for me, I'm just going to pass. Like, I'd rather take an alpha wide receiver. I do believe he's in that same tier with Saquon and Jonathan Taylor. Like, I have them in their own tier, but I just got to pass on that. And the answer to your other question is Quez is wide receiver 3 in Philadelphia. But from a fantasy standpoint, he's not going to return value because there's just too much going on there between AJ and Devontae and with Dallas Goedert and that Swift catching balls out of the backfield. I just don't think that there's any room for a wide receiver 3 from a fantasy football standpoint there. We'll do the win totals another time. There's a quick flash there on the NFL win totals. So bear with me, guys. Got to keep the balance of the show. We got to get out of here. Any other questions that you guys have, you're watching the replay, leave them there in the comment section. I'll address them on the show. And I promise you, tomorrow we will go into the NFL win totals. We got to visit that. And 55-1 for the Halos World Series. It's not a bad little flyer. I'm telling you, they're going to be aggressive at the MLB trade deadline and not aggressive to trade Shohei. We'll be back tomorrow. Good luck on the ice. Cheers.